There are currently very supportive fundamentals for the agribusiness sector. On the demand side, we have quite significant population growth forecast by the UN and the World Bank. An additional 70 million people per annum until 2050 is what's forecast. We also have improved living standards in developing nations. The United Nations also forecasted that we will have about 70 million people per annum urbanising in developing nations over the same time period. And we also have mandated growth in biofuels, which is also supporting the demand for soft commodities. On the supply side, we are seeing constraints. The two major constraints are land and also water availability and water reliability. So the constraint on demand and the growing population means that the amount of arable land per person will decline in the coming years, which means that we need to become more productive with the amount of land that we currently have. The long-term investment opportunities in this sector are investing in companies that are going to benefit from the volume growth, the increased demand and the increased level of urbanisation, and also investing in companies that will be involved in the productivity gains and the increased efficiency that's needed in order to improve productivity. So we're talking about seed companies, we're talking about farm mechanisation companies such as Kubota, we're talking about companies involved in fertiliser production as well.
This was the primary reason for underpinning the strong performance of the agribusiness sector in 2007 and the early part of 2008. What happened is, as energy prices increased, be it gas or oil, it had impact in terms of the cost of fertilisers, and what we saw is that as the gas price increased, it increased the cost of producing nitrogen-based fertilisers, and that had an impact also for phosphate type of production, because part of that process it requires energy. Once those fertiliser prices started to rise, that had implications also then for a domino effect in essence for potash prices, so they started to move up. As oil prices moved higher, you had an energy equivalent relationship with ethanol production, which is mandated by governments. So what that happened was it started to drag up the value of corn, and as it dragged up the value of corn, it also has a domino effect on other grains, because as farmers started to produce allocate more acreage towards corn, then there was less soy produced, so soy prices started to increase, which sort of reached a trade-off where the farmer then had a choice between corn and soy. It wasn't quite as simple as before. The implications of that is, as those edible oils started to rise, it causes a domino effect on other edible oils prices rising. So in Asia we started to see palm oil prices increase. So in essence, what started as the oil prices and gas prices moving higher had quite a domino effect in terms of impact on the agribusiness sector. What happened is, when the GFC occurred, two critical things happened. One was the oil price started to decline, so on an energy equivalent basis had implications for ethanol and had implications on grain prices. The second element was farmers' inability to access credit, and this was particularly the case in Brazil, because they relied on credit for the purchases of seed, fertiliser to get their crop going, and then they were able to sell it to traders. So this inability to access credit had some implications in terms of what was being planted in Brazil and the ultimate yields of products in Brazil, and that had quite large implications in terms of earnings of companies as volumes started to decline. you also had the added burden for a number of companies is that they were caught with high-priced inventory which needed to be written down, and that had an impact on their balance sheet. So hence the sort of volatility that we experienced in that sector during that time. Basically, no investment is risk-free. Simple as that. And I think the biggest risk that's faced by the agribusiness sector is having a scenario where prices rise rapidly and we create demand destruction, and that was quite evident during 07 and 08 in terms of particularly the fertiliser companies and also the protein companies, where prices had risen quite strongly. The GFC came through, demand declined, and it takes a long time to recover those lost volumes. In the fertiliser space, what happened was that farmers just couldn't make the economics work of applying high-priced fertiliser at a time when the corn price and the soy price had come off. So they were waiting for fertiliser prices to decline before they applied those nutrients to the soil. So what they did was they decreased the applications of fertiliser, and in effect mined the soil. So there is traces, if you had applied fertiliser properly in prior years, what would happen is that some of that fertiliser would not be used by the other plants, so it would remain in the soil. They just took a chance that the nutrient levels were still high enough for them to produce a crop, a viable crop.